Hello guys, welcome to one new edition of React Today as part of the World's Well Project. We're going to speak today about many issues that concerns Canadians, that concerns also the country and the world. Many of those issues are: how come Canada is still accepting that the United States is alright? NATO, which should have been dissolved as soon as the Warsaw Pact was dissolved after the Second World War, in order for the Russian state or the communism not to go to the West. But NATO didn't dissolve itself, even though the promises made were for them to do so. Now NATO are in big trouble. Why is that? Because the association between Benjamin Netanyahu and Donald Trump are nothing but the confabulation of two powers that shouldn't exist on a democratic world. If democracy does exist in any way, because apparently it doesn't, it's not apparently, it's factual, it's de facto. That there's no such thing as democracy anywhere. It's just to be a cover-up for the abuses of the oligarchs, the super rich, and the people that has taken from us, the country and the world, everything that we are supposed to have, because the Constitution says so. Now, the United Nations Charter, the United Nations is not a constitution, but it's a charter that is an agreement, in other words, from 193 countries, which has two other countries, and those are the Vatican State and the State of Palestine, which has not been recognized by Israel. When we speak about these matters and we see what is the position of Canada in these matters, it's nothing but the same as the Finlanders and the Swedish, which are, we will abide by the United States in whatever they say. Don't they have any dignity? You Europeans, what happened to you Europeans? Even though we have seen the protests of the European people in Denmark, in Finland, when it comes to the attacks of Israel against Palestine. Apparently, the United States of Israel is just saying that whatever Israel says, America will do. This association between the Western tradition, whoa, it's very slippery, you can tell now here. It's very difficult to keep your step. This is the same that is happening with the United Nations. It's no more. Thanks to the State of Israel, who believes that we, the people of the world, in the Western tradition, are going to take a foreign government to say whatever they believe it is that we need to do. It's so slippery, be careful. It's not fun when you hit the floor, eh? So, I remember a song by David Bowie. This is not America. This is not America. No, this is not America. A little piece in you, a little piece in me, we'll die. This is not America. Well, this is not Canada. This is not European tradition. This is just the people that began governing us, the elites and the oligarchs, which do not represent the peoples in Europe, the Western tradition whatsoever, and the infiltration of the State of Israel in our affairs here in Canada. You should hear the conservative candidate, Pierre Poilievre, away with socialism. Excuse me? Isn't it socialism what the term is what the Europeans and the European countries were loved and how they developed themselves because of social issues? Now Canada is of course wanting to privatize health, is using the third world tactics that has been used in healthcare issues, is imitating the third world tactics that has been used in Central and South America. What we're seeing with eyes is nothing else but the application of the combination of the Israeli state against Palestinians for the last, since 1948 and before, I will say since the Balfour Declaration, against democratic countries. They don't believe in democracy. They don't even have a constitution in that state. I used to love Israel. Yeah, not anymore. Not anymore when 82% plus are for the genocide in Gaza. Yeah, so there's many things to discuss. You can tell I'm an anti-Semite. No, I'm a Semite because I defend Palestine. Palestine is also a Semite country that has been recognized 3, 4, 5 times by 143 and 170 countries as a state. But the veto power of this obsolete United Nations Security Council just says no because we say no. So we have, as I have mentioned before in React today as part of the World War Project, we have become nothing but a prostitute to the capital. You say don't talk about capitalism or against capitalism. It's a new law that Pam Bondi, of course, Bondi. Why did I remember that second name? That's her name. Yeah, well, she's worse than this guy. She's supporting the assassination and killing of peoples and fishermen in the Caribbean. The president of Colombia has been very clear about it and says, yeah, we're going to talk man to man. It's obvious that we don't trust the United States of America, President Donald Trump, and his infantile, fabulous engagement with the world, which is, I govern the world, I want to take it over, especially with the operation, which is embarrassing. I laugh. I have to say, I laugh when I heard that the United States Special Forces, Delta Forces, of course using the technology, the electromagnetic force, in order to stop communications, etc. Yeah, I agree with that. They did it. They have technology to do so. Not only them, Russia does too, and many other powers in the world has that. But the fact that the United States of Israel, because Israel is daddy to the United States, I mean, these two guys, as Jeffrey Sachs says, they are united on the hips, like a monster, like a beast. We're gonna take the fucking world, whether you like it or not, bitches. Whatever, we're gonna go to war. Yeah, go ahead. I think personally, I don't know if you agree with me or not, but here in Canada, we have suffered very little compared what the Middle East, Palestine, and other countries like Colombia, Central and South America have suffered over the last century. So the Balfour Declaration is just the beginning of an enterprise that Israel has become with since those days, because they have a lot of money from the beginning of the Moses. If you remember, Moses came down with 10 commandments, and there was already a faction of Jews that said no, we disobey you. They were doing so great with the Egyptians. They said, fuck, we're losing our benefits. We're losing everything that we work for. Who cares about the rest of the Jews? We're a minority within the minority of the Jews that are suffering and are slaves, but we're not. We cannot let that happen. So they went against Moses. Just read the Old Testament and just read how when Moses came down from Mount Sinai and said, hey guys, what's going on? Including his brother, a priest. And he said, what happens? And we build a golden calf because we believe that money calls and money talks and bullshit walks. So fuck you, Moses. We want us to get back to Egyptians mandate because we were doing just fine there. Yeah, well, how many of the Jews were doing fine there? Very few. If you read and go through evolution and the criticism against Israel and the Jews in those days, it's worth studying, because from Cicero, from Martin Luther, from many others, demonstrated to us, the country and the world, that there's reasons why we should be careful when it comes to the state of Israel, or Israel in those days, or the Jews in those days. Yeah, that I'm not being anti-Semitic, it's history. But now, today, what we're seeing and what we're watching is the shameless attitude of the State of Israel, formed with the Balfour Declaration, 1917, I believe it was, the failure of the League of Nations, the creation of the United Nations, the United Nations Charter, which is not a constitution, is a chart that defines the understanding of all the nations in the world that want to avoid what is happening right now. But Israel, believing they're the only ones using biblical context in order to convince us, the country and the world in the Western tradition. I said it again, I'm talking about Australia, New Zealand, 27 countries in the European Union, the Nordic countries, Canada, and the United States of Israel, of America, of Israel. What is it? Which is it? So, what we are seeing is nothing but the accomplishment of the Israeli state, of the Zionists, that come from the days of Moses. You might say no, but yeah, I think so. I have studied the Bible for many years, whatever. Try to contradict me, invite me to a debate, and I will debate you. But to say that the state of Israel is not daddy, okay, for the United States of Israel, it's just awesome. Now they want to take Greenland, they want to take Iran, which is the almighty jewel of Israel from the beginning of time, forgetting that it was the Persians who gave them liberty and the freedom to get back to their fucking country, or to their place of establishment, in this case Palestine, in order for them to get back and restore their temple. And not only that, they gave them even more money, according to historians, in order to rebuild their temple. I'm talking King Darius, whatever you say in English, D-A-R-I-U-S. Some people put O on it. I don't think so. He gave them, the Persian, which is Iran right now, permission, and also supported them and put money on them in order to create their own temple and get back to business. Sorry, I just want to see this house. The neighbor says it's a dentist. It's a beautiful house. It's the biggest one. I love it. I think it should have opened a window on the, right side. But anyway, it's a beautiful house. I don't want to hit the floor. We Canadians are used to skate and slide around. That was going on here. And the pernicious political ambient here in Canada is no different than the sold-out European leaders. The Europeans, the Canadians, the North Americans are not being represented whatsoever. And we, the middle classes that work hard to make a living, don't understand why Canada and our Prime Minister is just saying that it's okay for Israel to do whatever they want. Canada's government has put $26 billion already in the war against Russia. It's okay if Russia didn't have any grounds in order for us, the country and the world, to understand that they were wanting to make peace according to United Nations Charter. But it was President Biden who said, no, so there's a war. That is a war, because it has the support of the European Union, it has the support of the United States, it has not the support of the people. But in the 21st century, education should be concerned with these matters, because in the Western tradition we are being possessed by the oligarchs and the rich, and like Jesus Christ himself says about Lucas 16, about Mammon, Lucas 16, 9-11, is the contrary of what we are doing as a Christian nation. Apparently the association between Netanyahu and Trump, this monster united by the hip that can't know but together everywhere they go, that's what they're doing, taking us Canadians and the Western tradition which was loved because of their independence, not only politically but scientifically, intellectually, philosophically, is now submitted to the action of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. This is embarrassing for Canadians, for Europeans, when we consult history. President of Colombia has cited Jesus himself in order for President Trump to understand. In his meeting, they're going to have a meeting, many people and in the world are saying, hey, what's going on here, man? Is he going to capture here President Petro of Colombia once he go to New York, once he is in Washington? Because President Trump, I'm pretty sure, is very offended about what 5 senators have said in the United States of America, which is disobey any order that is contradicting, even if you're a soldier, if it's contradicting the rules of engagement, which is you don't kill innocent people, you don't kill women and children, you don't bomb innocent villages like America did in Vietnam, My Lai, for example, etc. So from Vietnam to Palestine, and now from Vietnam to Greenland, Colombia, and the disposition of the United States of Israel and Israel to take over the world. This is a world project. It's going to discover for us, the country and the world, where is China on this? Where is Russia on this, the Russian Federation? Because once the United States and Israel attacks Iran, I really hope, that Canada stays away from this alliance, even though we are partners and we are supposed to support each other. No, when it comes to genocide, which Canada has supported big time, and no when it comes to injustice and the rupture and the fracture of the United Nations Charter, which was supposed to take us away from what happened in the First World War, which was supposed to end all wars, the war to end all wars. The, how do we call it in the Western tradition? The lost poets, and I'm not talking about Dos Passos or Hemingway, who went to war in the First World War and committed suicide. I'm talking about the 22 soldiers that committed suicide in the United States since the invasion of Iraq, Afghanistan, etc. Canadians are suffering from the same, but it's kept quiet. How long do we Canadians have to abide to these kind of issues that concern us as a nation here in Canada? Monarchical democracy, as Theodore Herzl wanted Israel to be. You need to read that book. So, speaking about politics is not an easy matter, but it's something that we cannot avoid nowadays, because we have been avoiding politics for the last days. And I'm going to hopefully test this now. Hello, sir. What do you think about Donald Trump's policies?
I haven't been paying attention.
You haven't paid attention?
Not lately, no.
Hey, what about Canada? You think Canada should support the United States going against Iran and destroy Iran? Because
I think the whole global thing's got to change up.
And how can we do that here from Canada?
I don't know how we can do that, but the whole global's having problems, and I think we should put all the head people and put them in the ring if we want to fight, not put all the kids and wives in jeopardation for their lives.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate your concern.
Yeah.
This is an opinion of just a citizen, a neighbor here. So yeah, when it comes to politics, we have to consider our constitutional Bill of Rights, which has defended exactly that, what is social. When they say that what Canada is a socialist country, what Finland, Denmark, my friends in Switzerland, well, Switzerland is a different case, of course, because they have a more direct democracy, not a representative democracy, as we have, which is a lie. When we see the congressman and the people supporting Israel, and the bills that they want to pass, which are the same against anti-Semitism that the state of Israel has imposed, with Thiler, with all these people that want us to obey or be jailed. Okay, I'm gonna try to resume what we are talking about. Hey guys, how's it going? What do you think about what's going on in the world right now? It's a difficult question, especially you being so young. But do you have any suggestions or ideas in order to try to find peace in the world instead of going to war?
No, not really. Not really.
Okay, are you willing to educate yourself in politics in order to avoid in your future generation wars and avoid?
Well, we're maybe, but we're too young. We don't really.
Well, you better start young, because if you don't, you're gonna repeat what is happening now in the First and the Second World War. Thank you for your vague opinion, but enjoy your lives, I hope. Yeah, right. Okay, so as you can see, people don't want to opine on these issues, and I think this is very, very bad and very sad. You should be reading like Israel reads The Cause for Israel by a lawyer that has 50 years educating in Boston College, in the Ivy League universities, Milton Friedman's ideas that only the rich can control, like Herzl used to say. We, the educated people, only us, the educated people, have the right to control whatever is Israel, the new state. He was speaking about the new state. But this conviction has been used for us, the country and the world, to follow. And I disagree with that. Hello, sir.
Hello.
Would you answer a couple of questions?
I guess.
Okay. Hello, sir. My name is Rico.
Hello.
I just want to ask you, how do you see that President Donald Trump attitude regarding how to handle the world, the invasion of Greenland, the invasion of Colombia, the invasion of Venezuela, and now if Greenland gets forcibly adopted, let's say, by the United States, what will that represent to NATO and the European countries where we come from?
I don't think that the talk about Greenland.
You look Greenlandish or Icelandish.
I am not Polish. From there, I don't think Greenland. I think that Europe has not spent money on its military defense. I think there's something like 14 soldiers in Greenland right now.
But Greenland has the support of Finland, and Finland Army is getting ready for winter fights, which is something that the United States is not ready for.
The United States has Alaska. I think they're a bit ready for that, but because they have forces there. But
I agree with you.
I don't think the U.S. is actually going to take over European countries. And speaking of Latin America, I believe in Venezuela, nobody other than Iran, China, Russia stated that the election was fair. That the person, that Maduro was not the elected leader of the country. So
what will happen if now that President Donald Trump has taken over, sequester, kidnap, whatever the definition is, some say that he was captured, whatever the definition according to politicians, etc.
Yes.
And reality, what will be if that happens to Iran right now, because they're thinking about Iran? What do you think Iran's going to do? They're just going to submit, or being Iran a central factor in this taking over of the world between the United States and Israel?
I don't think they're taking over the world, and I think right now the Iranian regime is killing hundreds to thousands of its own people.
Really?
And it has been.
And by the way, to all Iranian patriots, keep protesting, take over your institutions if possible, and all I say to them is help is on its way.
If you follow the Western media, you will no doubt have seen that there is non-stop coverage of protests going on in Iran. And Iranian rioters are burning down government buildings. Western governments have openly expressed support for these very violent protests, which they falsely claim are peaceful. But in reality, the Israeli media has admitted that foreign governments are arming these so-called protesters. A journalist at Israel's Channel 14 publicly admitted that, quote, foreign actors are arming the protesters in Iran with live firearms. Everyone is free to guess who is behind it, end quote. This is an Israeli journalist making it clear that Israel is arming the so-called protesters in Iran that are attacking state security forces, including police, with weapons. And it's very likely that the United States is also involved. Al Jazeera reported that Iranian authorities have found U.S. arms and explosive equipment in the homes of these insurgents that are trying to overthrow the Iranian government.
Quite brutal to its own people and internationally.
Have you considered that the Mossad, according, not to me, but according to the CIA ex-director, what is his name? He served for Donald Trump too. I'll put it on the marks. He said that Iran better get ready because we're going to take over, and that's it.
Did he say that, or did he say that if Iran attacks its own people, he might do something?
Okay, Mossad is intelligence of Israel. Do you think Israel is killing the people in order to blame Iran's government? Because that's what this person from the CIA ex-director, whose name I can't remember, said that, yeah, they're killing their people, but we are with them in the marches. And he also said specifically that thanks to Mossad, because they are within you in the revolution against the Ayatollahs. In other words, they are accepting that the Mossad is infiltrated in the protests. Have you considered that point of view?
Yeah, I'm sure that every country has, pretty much most countries infiltrate most other countries. Sure, but it is also quite clear that it is the
let's get back to
it is the real view of the people there.
That's right, but the point is, according to what you're saying, is that you have not seen the millions of people that have marched in Iran in favor of their government and not against it. We just see in the news, I have seen in the news, not in the regular news like CBC, CTV, etc., here in Canada, and I'm very ashamed to say so, that they haven't showed the millions of people that have marched in different cities in Tehran and other cities in Iran for the government. And getting back to you are Polish, remember Lech Walesa?
Yes.
What happened with Lech Walesa? It was a national movement of the people. Remember, supported by the Pope, I believe. He was Polish too in those days. What do you remember about that, please?
Well, what do I remember about that? Well, first of all, the Soviet Union, when it took over Poland, it took it over by force of arms, and it attacked any democratic movement. There were invasions of Poland by the Soviet forces, as well as invasions of Hungary, Czechoslovakia actually at the time, and the other Warsaw Pact countries. There was constant threat of invasion by the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union had troops in the country, and
it was necessary for Polish people to react to that matter.
Well, so what happened was eventually the Soviet Union was incapable of having support internally and externally. So they ended up with instability at home and then it became possible for Central Europe to throw off the yoke of the Soviet Union.
Which happened in 1990 and 1991 when
yes.
the Warsaw Pact was dissolved and the Russian Federation was created with President Yeltsin.
Yes, but the vote for the Polish people was actually 99% to 0. Most of the Communist Party members themselves voted against it. Like, everybody hated it there.
Exactly. So that means exactly what President Gorbachev means in 1989 when he shook hands with Ronald Reagan and said, please, take off that wall. So Russia, no, it happened. This is history. So it happened. President Gorbachev really said, okay, no more Soviet Union. You can free Poland and all these states, Slovakia, 15 states, as I remember well. They said, okay, we want independence from the Soviet Union because it was not the Soviet Union anymore.
Like, Poland wanted to be in NATO. In fact, what Poland told NATO told the U.S. is that either we get, this is the very strong word, but this is either we get into NATO or we produce our own nuclear weapons.
But you have not produced your own weapons, you have not been permitted to.
No. Poland said we will because we're afraid of Russia, because of what they've been doing, and historically since the 1940s and
I remember 1933, etc.
Yeah, so yes, and even earlier that the Polish-Soviet War. Yeah, so Poland said basically we need security guarantee. So either we go into NATO or we produce it. So if you don't want us to go into NATO, if you don't want us to have a nuclear weapon, you have to have us in NATO.
Exactly, so they can be protected by the United States and the North Atlantic.
Yes, yeah. Same thing, and there was similar idea about Czechia, Lithuania, Estonia, Latvia, and all the other countries that got invaded by the Soviet Union and colonized.
And we're part of it until the Warsaw was dissolved in order to give NATO the opportunity to dissolve itself, because NATO was created in order to protect European countries from the USSR.
Except that Russia, every time there was an election in Central and Eastern Europe, Russia had war games. Russia would say something about one of the countries.
War games are permitted in all countries of the world, especially very powerful countries like United States, China, Russia, and every other country.
But if you threaten your neighbor and have a war game while they're having an election, that is not being peaceful and non-threatening. That is obviously threatening, and that's why
America is not threatening to Russia, according to you. Russia is just the only one. America has nothing to do.
Putin said he would. He didn't find NATO threatening. He said that he would be even fine with NATO, with Russia being part of NATO.
But
what he found
NATO rejected it.
What he found threatening was the European Union, and actually he was mostly threatened by his former satellites. Being having a better economy and being better off. And this was a threat to the regime.
Of course, so that's why Gorbachev gave up.
No. Go ahead. With Putin, if Ukraine ended up to be really successful, ended up with a GDP much higher than Russia, because
it had the opportunity. Ukraine had the opportunity to do that.
Right, but if they end up, but Putin was always. They were always in the Russian customs union, not with European Union.
Russia is Europe. It's part of Europe.
It's not part of European Union.
It is.
It is not democratic. It doesn't follow any of the EU.
Depends on what you call democracy. If you see what's happening in the United States, for example, right now, did you call that a democracy? The killing of a white woman of 37 years old, for example, is that a democracy? You think that, for example, killing you and I because we said, hey man, you're abusing your power to the ICE police, for example, is a democracy?
Well, first of all, she was trying to prevent the police from, one, doing the job. Two, she drove into a police officer.
That is not true.
Yes,
no, you can see the video, and if you saw
I saw the video.
Yeah, well, I disagree with you 100%.
We begin today's show looking at ICE's escalating use of violence and force. Last week, an ICE agent fatally shot Renee Good, 37-year-old mother of three, in Minneapolis, sparking nationwide protests. On Thursday, President Trump threatened to invoke the Insurrection Act and send troops to Minnesota. Following the shooting of Renee Good, ICE's violent tactics have come under increasing scrutiny. A new investigation by ProPublica documents more than 40 cases of immigration agents using banned chokeholds and other moves that can cut off breathing. In one case, ICE agents violently arrested an ICU nurse in California named Amanda Treback while she was documenting ICE operations in the Los Angeles area. Two plainclothes masked agents were filmed pinning her against the pavement as they knelt on her back. One agent put his knee on Treback's head for a brief moment.
Filming you. Get off her head! Get off me! Get off your knee! Get off her head! Get it off!
Get back.
Get off her head!
Get back.
Get off of you! This is public property, sir. This is public property. Streaming live. This is ICE beating her up. They got her knee on her head. I am where I need to be, 10 feet. So.
You guys get her in the van?
Sir, you okay? Yeah.
Amanda Trevak was then held in federal custody. After her release, she appeared on Democracy Now!
They came out in a convoy. They jumped out of the vehicle. As you could see, they pinned me to the ground and they handcuffed me. They took me into an unmarked vehicle. They did not read me my rights. They didn't tell me where I was going. They shut the vehicle. They drove me to the other side of the non-civilian side of Terminal Island. And basically, they kidnapped me.
We're joined now by ProPublica reporter Nicole Foy. Her latest article headlined, "We found more than 40 cases of immigration agents using banned chokeholds and other moves that can cut off breathing." In October, Nicole also revealed how ICE detained more than 170 U.S. citizens. Nicole Foy, welcome to Democracy Now! It's great to have you with us. Why don't you lay out your latest findings? Talk about these potentially lethal chokeholds, which are, in fact, illegal?
Yes. My coworker, Mackenzie Funk, and I, we've spent most of this last year documenting aggressive tactics by immigration agents. And what we found is that over the last year, immigration agents across the country have used these really dangerous and banned by their own policy chokeholds and carotid restraints, as well as many of these also dangerous kneeling on people's necks, kneeling on backs like we saw with Amanda, in ways that can really restrict your breathing and your blood flow, which is one of the reasons why their own training actually highly discourages this types of arrest, but we've seen it across the country.
But let's get back to the real political when it comes to Canada. Now that you're Polish and I'm a foreigner too. So what do you think Canada's position will be now that this Donald Trump ambition to take Greenland, to take Colombia, to take Venezuela, to take Mexico, to go to war against the world with Israel, the state of Israel, which is obviously in control of the United States, in Congress, where 500 members bow to Benjamin Netanyahu. What is your position on that?
I don't think so. For instance, Greenland has 14 soldiers. If the U.S. wanted Greenland,
how does it go to Finland?
What Finland? Finland is very far away from Greenland. First of all, there's no way.
But it's close to Denmark. It's just beside Denmark.
Right, but exactly. Greenland is far from Denmark.
Well, you'll be far from Denmark, so that means NATO has to be dissolved,
no,
or NATO is going to abide by the United States.
Greenland is closer to the U.S. than it is to Denmark.
No, it's not.
Yes, it
Greenland doesn't want the United States to take over.
I didn't say that they want the United States to take over. I said they're closer.
Okay.
Yeah. And there was, I think, some polls that Greenland wanted independence from Denmark. That's the context of this.
Okay.
And there's 64,000 people in Greenland.
Yeah, exactly. That's the point. But the land is too big, and America wants it. Why do America will have the right to take over after the United Nations Charter, Articles 1st and Article 2nd says you cannot do that?
Well, first of all, they don't have the right. But then neither does Russia. Russia
has never mentioned that they want to have Greenland.
I didn't say they do it, but they...
Neither has China. Sweden tried to invade Russia before, sir. So did Finland.
In the 15 and 16... No, it didn't.
Yes, there's 18 countries, and you will know that Europeans are very sure. But
Finland wasn't around as a country to invade Russia.
That's right.
Russia was invading Finland, not Finland invading Russia.
No. Finland really attacked, and you can go to...
Which year? Which war?
There's 18 of them. You can go to Wikipedia. They will explain that to you. Sure. I don't have the exact facts because I don't have the war.
No, it's...
Finland is a tiny little country. Since the 1200? But okay, let's get back to the 1200, yes.
Because that area was controlled by Sweden before, not Finland.
Exactly.
So Finland was never attacking Russia because...
Yes, it did, sir.
It's like saying Liechtenstein was attacking France. They're just too small of a country.
Okay. We can debate this for hours. And
that's historically...
Exactly. So that's historically accurate and that's historically fact, and that's my point. I don't have the exact... If you have a phone, we can cite that with exact precision.
Russian wars, but
with exact precision, you have a phone, you can just find out. I don't carry a phone. But right now, what is the position that you think Canada should take in this endeavor of the Donald Trump administration in order to take everybody else by force? Do you think that's a rightful thing to do for Canadians to support? That's my last question.
I don't think they're taking everybody by force, and I
You
think...
don't? You mean kidnapping a president of like Venezuela, even if they are...
No European countries other than Russia and Belarus, for instance, said that he was actually an elected president.
Well, the people of Venezuela support way more the President Maduro. Yes, it does. Well, why do you say they don't? Why do you say they don't?
Seriously? Because it is a regime where they put their, critics in jail.
Yeah, really?
En masse.
Yeah, doesn't America does the same with their critics? They're killing citizens. Right now, dude, they're killing citizens. And let me tell you something.
ICE ignored his proof of citizenship. They detained him anyway. Watch what this judge had to say.
He claimed to be a U.S. citizen, but we couldn't immediately verify it. Based on database information, we detained him for further inquiry.
I told him I was born here. I showed them my ID. They said I was being detained anyway.
Citizenship is not something you get to ignore when it's inconvenient. The Fourth Amendment requires probable cause, not a database hunch. Detaining a citizen without it violates due process. This detention was illegal.
About Venezuela, Central and South America. They have been invaded by the United States and European countries more than 70 times since 1947 to 1989 alone. And I can prove you that, not right now because I don't have a phone on me. But what will be the position of Canada in support to war empire like East United States? Do you think Europe is going to just swallow it up, or they don't support the United
Canada's
States?
position before Maduro was snatched was that Maduro was an illegitimate.
Sure.
That was Canada's position before anything happened.
And it still is. It still is. But yeah, there's much to talk. Thank you, sir, for your conversation and your time. Very kind of you.
Yeah.
Au revoir.
All right.
Okay, so as you can see, we the people have different opinions. And the point about being Canadian is exactly to find out where we are wrong and where we're right. But to support going to war and start a third world war is something that might concern us, because we are not going to be left apart. Now, there's another point that we have to consider, and that is that Canada is trying to make its own decisions when it comes to the Arctic. Because the Arctic is a very special place, not only for maritimes, etc., but control of the world because it's positioned in the north. The point is that there's Canada, Russia, Norway, the United States from Alaska, but they're asking from Canada to support the United States after they threaten Canada to be and invade and be the first 51st state if Greenland doesn't become the 51st state of the United States. I have to say that Canada has not been totally sincere when it comes to this matter, because let me remind you, Canada has supported the United States in the First and the Second World War, which was just wars. But now it's an unjust war against peoples that haven't invited the United States to be their leaders and to govern them. And that is a point that we need to talk about. For us, for the country, for the world, hope to see you next time in the next edition of React Today. I hope that this program invite Canadian thinking and parties and citizens to understand that we are not away from a third world war, and we don't want to see the bombs coming to us, do we? Or do we need bombs coming to us in order to support what truth, what democracy, if that word really exists? Because the problem with democracy is democracy when only the corrupt, the oligarchies, and the super rich control such democracies in Europe, the United States, Canada, and the Western tradition. Isn't that a question you would like to find out? Because that's exactly what is causing all the troubles that we have now that are going to take us to the third world war. For us, for the country, for the world, hope to see you next time in the next edition of React Today as part of the World's Real Project. Au revoir. Bye-bye. Hasta pronto.